And then, like I said, then you get into the football season again. I'm a big football fan. And college football is going to be very, very interesting, man. Very interesting.
Are they going to start paying those players or what?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. But it's, you know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, all the fans in the stands for Michigan or Alabama or Clemson are not just paying, you know, the coach's salary or for the weight room. You know, I think a lot of those fans are paying for, you know, Bunsen burners in the chemistry lab too. And so when you shut down, you know, NCAA sports, football, basketball, these huge, huge money makers, again, I don't think those are just paying the salaries of the coaches of those teams. I think the revenue generated by NCAA football and NCAA basketball, you know, permeates throughout the university. So I think they, you know, contribute to athletic scholars or academic scholarships, and they contribute to other things in the academic sphere. So when people say, well, can we have, you know, NCAA football? You know, I think a lot of university presidents are down there going, holy cow, what are we going to do if we don't have, you know, our 110,000 fans that we get at Ohio State or Michigan or some of these big, big programs. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see. I just saw the Ivy League said they're going to postpone their football until spring.
No way.
Yeah. So like Harvard, Yale, like all those schools are going to play football now starting in February maybe, or February or March or something, which takes them right out of the whole equation. Unless
someone's
the
pockets
schools
just got lighter. Well,
they're trying to, I think that the thing is they're saying, well, we can't lose this revenue.
Yeah.
So we have to find a way to get this revenue because it is so important, right? So if we say, you know, we want to just have, we're not going to move it to spring, like some of these big programs are saying right now, we'll see if they change their tune. But I think they say, well, if we can't have fall football or fall basketball or whatever the case may be, so now we can't have it at all because we're going to lose that revenue. And I think, again, it's not just the coach and the assistant coaches who's going to lose their salary for that year because there's no football. I think it's, you know, the theater might not get, you know, new sets for Macbeth or whatever, like, you know, I think
hockey team might not get new sticks.
Well, whatever. I think all the athletics, yeah, that's right. The athletic, like some of those big programs, exactly like you said, like to some maybe like may not have, like for all I know, Duke has a hockey team. I don't know. Maybe they're like a college or something like that. And maybe their basketball team helps fund that. And so if
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, so because I know a lot of schools do that, right? Like they share the wealth. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, so it's not just like the Alabama football team doesn't just pay for the Alabama football team.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They pay for other things at the
science lab. I get it.
Exactly. And so I think that's why, you know, so, you know, the U.S. colleges are like, holy cow, how can we do this? Now, again, I'm not 100% sure, but I know the revenue, like, because I always hear like, you know, billions of dollars in TV money and all this kind of stuff, billions. I said, well, I know Nick Saban as the coach of Alabama makes a lot, but I don't think he makes $1 billion. Right? I don't think he makes $200 million. If say Alabama football generates $100 million, well, yeah, you can pay some coaches there and you can put some weights in the weight room, but then there's a lot of money left over. And I'm sure that goes to other programs at the university, be it athletic or academic or whatever. So losing that revenue becomes, you know, a huge problem. So for these, you know, for these schools, when you're saying, oh no, you can't have football, you can't have, you know, like,
it's an issue.
Holy cow, what are we going to do? Like, what's going to happen with our school?
We had O'Malley on the podcast, goes to Notre Dame, and he was talking about.
Oh, Michael Leary.
Michael Leary, sorry.
Yeah.
Terrible with names. Brad, my bad. I got you. And he was saying that essentially the football team on that campus has their own school separate. They got their own cafeteria, own practice facility, own classrooms, own everything. Like it's just essentially it's the football team and then hockey team secondary. And I never even thought of that. When we had Steiny was over here the other day, Matt, his son, and he was talking about how Cornell is that's the team. The hockey team is that #1 team.
Yeah.
And like you look at it from both perspectives. You have that, you go to that one school that's huge. It has that football team.
Yep.
And you're that second team. You're the hockey. You know, you're the hockey guy. But then you go with Steiny and you go to Cornell and like, no, you are the guy. You're that #1 team. Everyone goes to see you. But then maybe, you know, you're not bringing in that revenue.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to hear both stories and see how it works like that. But I never thought of the fact that maybe there's football teams out there paying for the hockey team sticks.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's the case,
but it just kind of makes sense. It does.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
It just kind of makes sense, and kind of being around, like when they say like being able to allocate monies and where they can go and trying to be equal. You know what I mean, and trying to help other people out, because I know that even one of my clients, Tara Lentane, played in RIT.
Okay.
And just women's hockey in NCAA D1.
Yeah.
And just world-class facilities. World-class facilities. But they don't bring a lot of fans, right? So they don't, so like their fan base or whatever isn't paying for their facilities. The money comes from other places, whether it's, you know, donations from alumni or tuition or whatever, you know. So there's all, like, it's not just this team pays for them, this team, like, I just don't think it works like that. Just kind of based on what I've heard and what I've seen, it just doesn't seem like that. And even guys, like you say, like these big alumnus, like these CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that graduated from a certain school. Well, I mean, a big part of their, you know, contributions of the school probably come from them being football boosters. Yeah. And if they're like, you know, if such and such a school says, hey, it's time for your annual, you know, $1 million donation. And he's like, well, you know, I always make that at homecoming weekend when I'm watching my football team play, but they're not playing this year. So am I going to write that check for the $1 million this year? Maybe not, right? So maybe they're putting pressure on them to have football, right? Because that's a big part of it. Like, especially like NCAA sports is, when you're talking about the big ones like football, you know, basketball, baseball, maybe, it's huge. It's huge money. And I think the trickle down or whatever, the effect on the rest of the schools themselves is bigger than maybe some people realize. And that's why I think maybe, oh, how can you do this? How can you have kids on campus and stuff? But they're thinking, man, somebody get a vaccine out because we need this revenue. Yeah. Right. We need
all about money.
We need this revenue. We need these kids going. So
when we went up to Boston, we saw Willie DeVoe play at Harvard. Me, Dudes, and Billy, we went up and we went into the rink. And how do I explain it? Okay, so essentially we walked into the rink and it was a mix of people, young and old. And when you look at the older people, it was all alumni. Yeah. And they all dressed the same. They all had their Harvard jacket on, the white collar, the comb over hair, the khakis. And me and Dudes and Billy walk in with those bright red vests, and we're just like the only two. We're sticking out like sore thumbs. And we have these people coming up and talking to us because we have the Nova Scotia flag on the back, and all these people go to I don't want to say these people and offend anyone, but they all go to what's the golf course in Cape Breton, the nice one, Cabot Links. Oh yeah. So they all know that flag because of Cabot Links, because wealthy people go there and they golf, and all those people in Boston and all those Harvard alumni, they're like, in Nova Scotia, Cabot Links, is that where you're from? Anyways. Wow. So then we get the tour from the Harvard facility down below with Willie, and you go into the room, you go into the weight room, you go into the sauna room, whatever. Brad, not a speck of dust. Not a perfection. Not like you look to your right, you look to your left, you look dead center, you look behind you, and you don't see any errors. Everything was systematically designed for these people to become better human beings, not even hockey players. You know, there's a classroom off to the left. There's a little, you know, tape room to the right, whatever. It's an NHL facility in a college rink, a Harvard rink. I don't know, maybe fits like 2,000, 3,000 people. But when you go underneath the stands there and you just see the money that's poured into that organization, and then you're kind of upstairs and you're talking to all these alumni people that are at the game, it kind of made sense then and there. Okay, where's this rich tradition? Where does it come from? And what you just brought up, it kind of made it all make sense. It's like, yeah, it comes back from the alumni. I never graduated from a school, so I don't know what an alumni program is like. I'm just not in that world. So thinking about what you just said and thinking about the Willie DeVoe story in Harvard and seeing all that wealth and the people. Oh yeah, it kind of just all wrapped it around.
Hey, I still get letters from them.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
It's
but
a
again,
thing,
I'm in the same boat. I'm like, bring back the men's hockey program and then we'll talk. They don't have a men's hockey team anymore.
Maybe if you forked up $1 million, it'd come back. A couple more hockey schools coming from you.
That's exactly it. Yeah, no, that's exactly it for sure.